The alarm clock rings. A piercing sound cuts through the fragile silence of early morning. For many, it is not a gentle invitation to greet the day, but a jarring reminder of responsibilities waiting like an avalanche. Eyes barely open, the hand reaches not for sunlight, not for gratitude, but for the glowing screen of a phone. Notifications flood in, emails marked urgent, texts that demand immediate answers, headlines screaming of disasters somewhere far away. Even before the feet touch the ground, the heart begins to race. This is how the day begins for millions of people across America. Across the modern world, by the time the coffee machine hums, the body is already on autopilot. The mind, however, is not awake in the true sense. It is sprinting ahead into deadlines, bills, and traffic. Stress has become so normal that we hardly recognize it as stress anymore. It is simply life. But deep down, the nervous system knows. Shoulders tighten, jaws clench, and the breath becomes shallow. The body whispers what the mind refuses to hear. Something is not right. Think of the typical morning commute. Car horns blaring, red lights that seem endless, a sea of brake lights stretching into the horizon. In these moments, we are trapped in metal boxes, strangers side by side, each carrying their invisible burdens. A parent wonders how to pay for childcare. A worker fears the next round of layoffs. A young graduate questions if their degree was worth the crushing debt. Everyone sits in silence, but within each vehicle burns a quiet storm of worry. Stress is not just about major crises. It seeps into the smallest corners of life. The electricity bill arriving higher than expected. A child who cannot sleep through the night. The partner who seems distant at dinner. These are not dramatic headlines, but together they weave a net of tension that tightens with every passing week. We convince ourselves that if we just work harder, earn more, plan better, then one day the weight will lift. Yet somehow, the harder we push, the heavier it feels. This invisible burden shows up everywhere. It appears in the restless tossing at midnight, in the endless cups of coffee to stay awake, in the snap of irritation at a loved one who did nothing wrong. Doctors say stress contributes to heart disease, anxiety, and depression. But beyond medical charts, stress robs us of something far more precious, the simple joy of being alive. When was the last time you ate a meal without scrolling? When was the last time you sat in silence without needing a distraction? Our culture rarely pauses to ask, why are we always rushing? Always tired? Always chasing? The unspoken belief is that this is the price of success, the necessary sacrifice for progress. But let us be honest, what kind of progress leaves us sleepless, restless, and disconnected from the very life we are trying to improve? In the ancient teachings of the Buddha, there is a word that captures this universal dissatisfaction: dukkha. It is often translated as suffering, but it is not just the big tragedies. Dukkha is the background noise of discontent that hums beneath even our good days. It is the sense that things are never quite stable, never quite enough. You may have a good job, yet worry about losing it. You may be in love, yet fear the day it fades. Even in moments of happiness, a shadow lingers, the knowledge that nothing lasts. This insight is not meant to depress us, but to help us finally see clearly. Stress is not just a personal weakness. It is not a sign that you are failing at life. It is the natural friction of living in a world where we demand permanence from things that are impermanent, certainty from things that are uncertain. God, imagine holding sand in your fist. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. This is how we live, clutching at control, demanding that life obey our plans. And every time reality moves differently, we suffer. Stress is the signal that our grip has become too tight, but here lies a door. If stress can be understood, it can be transformed. If we can learn to face the truth of dukkha not as punishment, not as an enemy, but as a teacher, then the weight we carry begins to shift. For the first time, stress can point us toward freedom instead of despair. You may be wondering, how could stress, this relentless thief of peace, possibly guide us to freedom? That is the journey we are about to take. It begins not by escaping stress, not by pretending it does not exist, but by turning toward it, listening to it, and discovering what it has been trying to teach us all along. We often treat stress like an intruder, something that sneaks into our lives uninvited, something to push away or numb with coffee, alcohol, scrolling, or endless distractions. Yet the more we try to silence it, the louder it grows. Like a leak in the roof ignored too long, it eventually floods the whole house. Pause for a moment and look around. Offices filled with fluorescent lights and tired faces. Supermarkets where parents rush with carts while children cry for attention. Hospitals with waiting rooms that never seem empty. These are not images of rare catastrophe. They are the daily scenery of a society stretched thin. Stress is not the exception anymore. It is the default setting of modern life. And still, people keep saying, "This is just how it is." Everyone is stressed. You just have to deal with it. But deep inside, does this feel right? Were we truly born only to endure this endless race, to collapse in exhaustion at the end of each day, only to wake and repeat? Stress whispers a deeper truth. Something in the way we live is out of balance. It is not only about external pressures, jobs, bills, traffic, but also about the stories we tell ourselves. The story that says, "If I don't work harder, I am not worthy." The story that says, "If I don't achieve more, I will be left behind." The story that says, "If I pause, I will fall." These stories are invisible chains, tightening with every thought, every comparison, every unmet expectation. Here is the paradox. The harder we strive for control, the less control we feel. The more we chase after comfort, the less comfortable we become. We live in constant pursuit, but rarely in presence. This is why stress feels endless, because the chase never stops. The Buddha's teaching on dukkha shines a compassionate light here. He did not deny that life contains joy. He simply pointed out that clinging to joy, resisting change, demanding life fit our desires, this is what generates constant unease. Stress is not just about having too much to do. It is about wanting life to be other than it is. In every moment, think of the way we wait at a red light. The foot taps, the eyes dart, the mind protests. This should be green by now. Such a small moment, yet filled with tension. Multiply this impatience across 1,000 moments in a day, and you begin to see how stress accumulates like drops of water filling a jar. One drop seems harmless, but soon the jar overflows. Now imagine another way. Imagine noticing the red light, taking a breath, and allowing the pause to simply be. The situation does not change, but the relationship to it does. This is the seed of wisdom the Buddha offered. The suffering of dukkha becomes lighter the moment we stop resisting what already is. This does not mean giving up. It does not mean letting life walk over you. It means facing reality without the extra layer of struggle we so often add. A bill is due that is reality. But the panic that says, "I will never survive this," that is optional. A traffic jam is reality. But the rage that says, "This always happens to me," that is optional. Stress, then, is not simply an enemy to fight. It is a messenger. It reveals where we are clinging, where we are demanding, where we are fighting against life. And if we have the courage to listen, stress can guide us toward the very freedom we long forgot. So the question is no longer, how do I eliminate stress? But what is stress showing me? Perhaps it is showing you the limits of your body, calling you to rest. Perhaps it is showing you the weight of perfectionism, urging you to let go. Perhaps it is showing you the illusion of control, inviting you to trust the flow of change. Every time stress appears, we have a choice: to tighten our grip or to soften it, to curse the red light or to breathe in the pause, to see only the burden or to glimpse the hidden door. And here is the hidden gift. The moment we see stress not as a curse, but as a teacher, something shifts inside. The heaviness loosens. The breath deepens. Life is still demanding, but we are no longer crushed under its weight. This is where the journey begins. Stress is the first doorway. Behind it lies a deeper understanding, a new way of living. But to step through, we must be willing to face it honestly, to feel it fully, and to allow it to transform us. Picture a worker sitting late at night in front of a glowing computer screen. The office is empty. The city outside has gone quiet, but inside their chest, the race has not stopped. Thoughts rush. Did I finish enough today? What if I lose my job? What will people think if I fail? Even when the body is still, the mind keeps running, sprinting toward a finish line that never appears. This is not one person's story. It is the silent biography of millions. Stress has become the background music of our time. We wear it like an invisible badge, proof that we are busy, proof that we are important. Yet behind this badge is exhaustion, anxiety, and a longing that whispers, there must be more than this. The Buddha once compared the human mind to a monkey, leaping from branch to branch, never at rest. In our world, the monkey has been given caffeine, Wi-Fi, and a smartphone. No wonder it never sleeps. We think rest will come once we finish the next task, once we pay the next bill, once we achieve the next milestone. But like a horizon, rest always stays just out of reach. Here lies the deeper truth of dukkha. It is not simply the weight of too many tasks. It is the endless hunger of the mind that says, not enough, not yet, not secure. This hunger creates stress because it can never be fully satisfied. Even when we get what we want, the relief is temporary. A promotion brings joy, but soon a new pressure appears. A vacation brings peace, but soon the inbox fills again. Like waves against the shore, stress returns, no matter how many castles we build in the sand. Now, pause and imagine something different. Imagine a moment when you were fully present watching a sunset, holding a child's hand, listening to the rhythm of rain. In those moments, stress disappears, not because the problems vanish, but because the mind stops demanding that life be other than it is. This glimpse shows us that freedom is not somewhere far away. It is hidden inside the way we meet this very moment. The Buddha did not promise a life without challenges. He himself faced hunger, loss, and betrayal. What he discovered and what he shared is that peace does not come from controlling the storm, but from learning to stand calmly in the rain. Stress loses its grip when we stop feeding it with resistance and fear. But how do we do this in practice? It begins with awareness. Instead of drowning in stress, we notice it. The tight shoulders, the racing thoughts, the shallow breath, these are signals. Like warning lights on a car dashboard, they tell us something is off. The first step is not to fix, but simply to see. Then comes the gentle art of letting go. Not letting go of responsibility, but letting go of the inner war against reality. The bill is due, yes. The deadline is real, yes. But the panic, the self-criticism, the constant replay of worst-case scenarios, these are extra layers we can learn to release. With practice, stress becomes lighter because we stop carrying what was never ours to hold. Think of a rope pulled tight. The more we resist, the harder it cuts into our hands. But if we loosen our grip, the pain eases. Life is the rope. Stress is the friction. The choice of how tightly we hold on, that is ours. Stories from people who have embraced this wisdom often sound similar. A woman once burdened by endless deadlines begins a simple practice of mindful breathing, pausing 3 times a day to inhale deeply and exhale slowly. Over time, she notices her heart racing less, her temper softening, her nights becoming easier. The deadlines remain, but her relationship to them changes. Stress no longer defines her. It simply visits and passes. Another man, overwhelmed by financial pressure, starts each morning with gratitude. Not a grand ritual, just naming 3 small things: warm coffee, a safe home, a loyal friend. Slowly, he discovers that stress shrinks when gratitude grows. Problems still exist, but they no longer feel like monsters. They feel like challenges on a path he is capable of walking. This is the transformation stress offers when viewed through the lens of the Dharma. Instead of an enemy, it becomes a mirror. It shows us where we are clinging, where we are afraid, where we have forgotten to breathe. And in that reflection lies the invitation to change not the outer world first, but the inner posture with which we meet it. Stress, then, is not the end of the story. It is the beginning. It is the first teacher on the path. And like any teacher, it speaks in a language we may not want to hear. But if we listen, we will find that stress is not shouting, "You are weak." It is whispering, "Wake up. There is another way." So as you reflect on your own life, the morning alarms, the commutes, the bills, the restless nights, ask yourself, what if stress is not here to punish you, but to guide you? What if this very weight is the doorway to a freedom you have not yet imagined? The journey continues. Beyond stress lies the deeper truth of impermanence, the dance of change that shapes every moment. And to understand that, we must first look closely at the illusion of control. There is a strange comfort in making plans. We buy calendars, set reminders, map out 5-year goals. We tell ourselves that if we just prepare enough, if we just control every detail, life will unfold the way we want. It feels safe. It feels responsible. It feels like we are in charge. But then life laughs. The company downsizes. The relationship ends. The market shifts. A storm cancels the trip we dreamed of for months. In an instant, our carefully constructed sense of control crumbles like a sandcastle meeting the tide. And suddenly, we are left staring at the truth we would rather avoid. We are not in control. Control is the illusion that fuels much of modern anxiety. Think of the endless hours spent refreshing news feeds, checking bank accounts, tracking steps, monitoring likes. These habits give the impression of mastery, but underneath lies a fragile hope. If I watch closely enough, maybe nothing bad will happen. Maybe I can prevent the pain. Yet no matter how much we watch, things still change. People still leave. Bodies still age. The unexpected still arrives. Imagine a young man who believes he has his life perfectly planned. He studies hard, lands a good job, buys a car, saves for a house. But then one day, the company he trusted announces bankruptcy. Overnight, his security vanishes. He did nothing wrong, yet the world shifted under his feet. The shock is not only about losing income, it is about losing the illusion that he was ever truly in control. Or picture a mother who tries desperately to protect her child. She child-proofs the house, chooses the best schools, monitors every activity. Still, one day the child falls ill. The mother is consumed with guilt. I should have done more. I should have prevented this. But the truth is, life cannot be sealed against every possibility. Control has limits. And those limits are everywhere. We see this on a larger scale too. Entire nations invest billions to control economies, climates, or technologies. Yet a single virus spreads across the world, humbling even the most powerful systems. A reminder, once again, that life moves beyond human plans. Why does this hurt so much? Because the human mind craves certainty. The ego builds its identity on predictability. This is my job. This is my partner. This is my future. When reality shifts, the ego feels threatened, as if dying. And so we resist change with all our strength, even when resistance multiplies the pain. The Buddha named this truth with one simple word: anatta, impermanence. Everything changes. Everything passes. Nothing stays the same. From the seasons to the stars, from bodies to emotions, all is in motion. The problem is not impermanence itself. The problem is our refusal to accept it. Think of autumn leaves falling. Their beauty is inseparable from their impermanence. We do not curse the tree for changing color. We marvel at it. Yet when relationships shift, when jobs end, when our bodies grow older, we rage as if something unnatural has occurred. But impermanence is not the enemy. It is the essence of life. Here is the paradox. The tighter we hold on, the more painful change feels. But the moment we loosen our grip, we discover a hidden freedom. Life was never meant to be controlled. It was meant to be lived. Stress, anxiety, and fear all intensify when we demand permanence from what is fleeting. We tell ourselves, if I can just make this last forever, then I will be safe. But safety built on control is fragile. The only true safety comes from learning to flow with change, instead of fighting against it. And so, the illusion of control becomes both our prison and our teacher. It imprisons us by feeding endless fear of the future. Yet it teaches us, again and again, that clinging does not stop impermanence. It only deepens the suffering. The question is, can we learn to see impermanence not as a threat, but as a gift? Can we allow the shifting seasons of life to carry us, instead of crushing us? This is where our journey will turn next. To walk with less fear, we must open our eyes fully to anatta. Impermanence may feel like loss, but hidden within it lies the seed of freedom. Think of water flowing down a river. It curves around rocks, rushes over rapids, and pools in quiet bends. The water never asks the mountain to move. It simply flows. Yet human beings often demand the impossible. We want the river of life to bend exactly to our will, to stay calm when we wish for calm, to stay full when we thirst, to never flood, to never dry. When it does not obey, we feel betrayed. But the river was never ours to control. In daily life, this illusion shows up in small but powerful ways. We argue with traffic as if anger could turn red lights green. We cling to relationships long past their season, insisting that love should never change. We fight aging with endless products and procedures, as though time itself could be negotiated. Each struggle leaves us more exhausted, not because change is cruel, but because our resistance is endless. The Buddha's wisdom invites us to a radical shift, to see impermanence not as a threat, but as the natural order. A flower wilts not to punish us, but because its beauty was always meant to be brief. A friendship changes shape not to wound us, but because both hearts are growing in new directions. Even loss, as painful as it feels, reminds us of the preciousness of each fleeting moment. If nothing lasted forever, then every moment becomes infinitely valuable. Consider the story of a man who lost his home in a fire. At first, despair consumed him. Years of work reduced to ashes. But in time, as he rebuilt, he realized that the fire had also cleared space for a new beginning. He moved closer to family, simplified his life, and discovered a peace he had never known before. Impermanence had taken much, but it had also given. Or think of a woman whose marriage ended after decades. She wept, believing her life was over. Yet in the silence that followed, she rediscovered her own voice. She began painting again, traveling, meeting new people. What felt like the end revealed itself as a beginning. This is the hidden gift of impermanence. Every ending carries the seed of something new. When we cling to control, we close ourselves to these gifts. We see only the loss, never the possibility. We grip the rope until our hands bleed, not realizing that letting go would set us free. The practice of awareness of seeing clearly, moment by moment, loosens that grip. Instead of fighting impermanence, we begin to flow with it. Imagine standing in the ocean as waves approach. If you resist, bracing your body against the force, the waves will knock you down. But if you dive gently into the wave, letting it pass over you, you rise again unharmed. Life is like this. The waves of change are inevitable. The suffering comes not from the waves themselves, but from how we meet them. This is why impermanence, though frightening to the ego, is liberating to the heart. It reminds us that no pain lasts forever. The grief, the failure, the loneliness, all are temporary. Just as storms pass, so too will sorrow. At the same time, impermanence reminds us that joy is fragile, which makes it precious. To love someone deeply is to know that one day you will part. This is not a reason to withhold love. It is the reason to love fully. Now, in this way, impermanence teaches us presence. When we stop demanding that moments last, we begin to live them. The laughter of a child, the taste of warm bread, the embrace of a friend, these need no control, only attention. And in attention, life blossoms. The illusion of control will always whisper, hold on tighter, plan more, protect yourself. But true peace whispers something softer. Let go, flow, trust the change. This does not mean we abandon responsibility. We still plan, we still care, we still act. But we act with wisdom, not with the desperate hope of controlling the uncontrollable. We plan, knowing plans may change. We love, knowing love may shift. We work, knowing success may fade. And in that knowing, stress begins to dissolve. The teaching of anicca impermanence is not meant to frighten us. It is meant to free us, to remind us that clinging brings suffering, but acceptance brings peace, to show us that every ending is also a beginning, every loss also a door. So the question we must carry is this: if life will always change, what would it look like to live not as a prisoner of control, but as a companion of impermanence? The journey continues. Beyond stress, beyond control, lies another shadow that haunts modern life, the silent ache of loneliness. And to face it, we must learn a different kind of wisdom, the wisdom of the heart. On a Friday night in a bustling city, restaurants glow with neon lights and streets pulse with traffic. Crowds fill the sidewalks, laughter spills out of bars, music vibrates from speakers. Yet somewhere, in a small apartment just blocks away, a man scrolls through his phone alone. His contact list is full. His social media shows hundreds of friends, yet no one calls. No one knocks at his door. Surrounded by millions, he feels invisible. This is the paradox of our time. Never in history have we been more connected, yet never have we felt more alone. The devices in our pockets promise instant communication, but too often they deliver only fragments, likes, emojis, fleeting comments. We mistake these fragments for connection, but late at night, when the screen goes dark, the emptiness returns. Loneliness is not always loud. Sometimes it looks like a young professional eating dinner alone while scrolling through emails. Sometimes it looks like an elderly woman sitting in a nursing home, waiting for a visit that never comes. Sometimes it looks like a teenager posting photos online, silently hoping someone will notice, someone will care. You rarely talk about it openly. Admitting loneliness feels like confessing weakness, as if saying, I am unworthy of love. And so we keep the silence, even as it eats at us. Research shows loneliness can be as damaging to health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. But beyond statistics, it erodes the spirit. It whispers that we are separate, unwanted, forgotten. Modern culture often tells us that independence is strength. We celebrate the self-made individual, the lone hero who needs no one. But behind this myth hides a truth. Human beings are wired for connection. We survive together, we heal together, we thrive together. When that bond is missing, the soul aches. Think of the office worker who spends 10 hours a day at a desk, surrounded by colleagues, yet never truly seen. Think of the single parent who gives everything to their children, but lies awake wishing for an adult voice to share the burden. Think of the retiree who once had a busy household, now wandering through empty rooms. Loneliness is not about being physically alone. It is about the absence of true connection, the kind where you feel understood, valued, held. The Buddha recognized this human need for connection in a profound way. He taught that the path is not walked in isolation, but in community, in Sangha. He spoke of cultivating the four immeasurable qualities: boundless loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. These are not abstract virtues. They are the medicine for loneliness. Loving kindness, or metta, begins with the simple wish, may I be happy. May others be happy. Compassion, or karuna, grows when we turn toward the suffering of others and say, may you be free from pain. Sympathetic joy, videna, is the ability to celebrate others' happiness without envy. And equanimity, apekkha, is the calm balance that allows us to stay steady through life's storms. When practiced, these qualities dissolve the illusion of separation. They remind us that though our bodies sit apart, our hearts are not isolated. Loneliness says, you are cut off. Metta replies, you are part of the great web of life. But before we reach for the medicine, we must first name the illness honestly. Loneliness is real. It is heavy. And for many, it shapes daily existence. Ignoring it, numbing it, or pretending it does not matter only deepens the wound. The courage is in facing it, directly acknowledging, yes, I feel alone. For in that admission, the door opens to change. This battle is silent, but it is shared. Millions fight it at once, each believing they are alone in their struggle. Perhaps you have felt it too, the quiet ache of wishing for someone to sit beside you, to truly listen, to say, I see you. If so, you are not alone in your loneliness. And that is where hope begins. For if loneliness is the illusion of separation, then connection is not as far away as it seems. It may begin with a single breath of kindness toward yourself. It may begin with offering compassion to another. It may begin with recognizing that behind every face in the crowd is a heart that also longs not to be alone. The question is, can we begin to bridge the silence, one heartbeat at a time? Loneliness tells us a story. You are separate. You are different. You do not belong. And when we believe that story, we retreat even further into isolation. We stop reaching out. We stop trusting. We stop opening our hearts. But here lies a gentle truth. Loneliness is not proof of separation. It is a signal calling us back to connection. Connection does not always mean crowded rooms or constant chatter. True connection is presence. It is the feeling of being seen without judgment, of being accepted as we are. Sometimes it comes through a deep conversation with a friend. Sometimes it arises in silence, sitting beside someone who needs no words. And sometimes it begins within, when we offer kindness to ourselves instead of criticism. This is where the practice of metta loving kindness begins. At first, it may feel strange. Sitting quietly, repeating simple phrases, may I be safe, may I be healthy, may I be peaceful, may I live with ease. These words are not magic spells. They are reminders, soft seeds planted in the soil of the heart. Over time, they grow. The harsh inner critic softens. The cold silence inside begins to warm. Loneliness loosens its grip. From there, metta expands outward. We begin to send the same wishes to others. May you be safe. May you be peaceful. At first, perhaps to loved ones, then to strangers, even with practice, to those who have hurt us. Each time, the wall of separation thins. We discover that the heart is vast enough to hold many lives, many stories. Loneliness, which once said, "You are cut off," begins to dissolve in this widening circle. Alongside loving kindness comes karuna, compassion. Compassion is not pity. It is the willingness to touch the suffering of another and respond with care. When we open to compassion, loneliness shifts. For the moment we step into another's pain, we are no longer trapped inside our own. Think of helping a neighbor, listening to a coworker, or even offering a smile to a stranger. Small gestures, yet each one threads another stitch in the fabric of connection. And then comes mudita, sympathetic joy. Loneliness often grows from comparison, the sense that others are happy while we are not. But mudita invites us to celebrate others' joy as if it were our own. A friend's success, a child's laughter, even the simple happiness of someone walking their dog in the park, all can become reasons to rejoice. In this practice, we discover abundance. Joy is not scarce. It is contagious. To celebrate another's happiness is to share in it, and in that sharing, loneliness weakens. Finally, there is upeka, equanimity. This is the balance that steadies us when relationships change, when people come and go, when life shifts. Equanimity reminds us that love is not possession. To truly connect is to love without clinging, to care without demanding permanence. With equanimity, we can hold both closeness and distance without despair. We can remain rooted even when the winds of change blow through our connections. Together, these four immeasurable qualities form a bridge across the silent chasm of loneliness. They do not erase the fact that life contains solitude, but they transform solitude into spaciousness. Alone no longer means abandoned. Alone becomes a chance to deepen presence, to widen compassion, to celebrate joy, to rest in balance. Consider a young woman who once dreaded coming home to an empty apartment. She began practicing metta each night before bed. At first, it felt mechanical, but slowly her heart softened. She started volunteering at a shelter, meeting people she might never have spoken to before. One evening, as she laughed with strangers over shared meals, she realized something profound. The apartment was still empty, but she was no longer alone. Or consider an older man, widowed after decades of companionship. For months, he felt swallowed by loneliness, convinced that life had nothing left to offer. Then gently, he began practicing compassion, not only for himself, but for others grieving too. He joined a support group, listening to stories, offering comfort. In time, the ache remained, but it was no longer a solitary ache. It had become a shared journey, carried together. Loneliness in this light becomes not an enemy, but a teacher. It teaches us how deeply we long for connection. It teaches us the value of presence, the power of compassion, the joy of celebrating others. Most of all, it teaches us that the walls we feel around our hearts are not unbreakable. With each act of kindness, with each breath of compassion, they begin to crumble. So if you find yourself feeling alone, whether in a crowded city or in the silence of your own home, know this: you are not the only one. Millions share this silent battle, and in that shared struggle lies the seed of connection. For the truth is, loneliness is never yours alone. It is a human experience, calling us back to one another. And perhaps this is the question we must carry forward. If loneliness is the illusion of separation, what would it mean to live as though every heart you meet, including your own, is already connected? The journey continues. Beyond loneliness lies another hunger, one that drives much of our suffering, the endless cycle of desire. And to face it, we must turn to the roots of craving itself. That begins innocently enough. A new phone, a better car, a promotion at work. Each achievement, each purchase, brings a spark of excitement. For a moment, the world feels brighter, the self feels stronger, the heart feels full. But soon, sometimes within weeks, sometimes within days, the spark fades. The phone scratches. The car becomes ordinary. The promotion brings new pressures. And so the hunger returns. What's next? This hunger is not a flaw of character. It is the way the modern world is built. Advertisements whisper constantly, "You are not enough until you have this." Store windows promise happiness packaged neatly in boxes. Social media parades endless images of smiling faces, exotic vacations, and shiny objects, fueling the fear of missing out. Desire multiplies in silence, each wish birthing another. Consider the frenzy of Black Friday. Crowds push through doors, grabbing items off shelves, eyes wide with urgency. For a moment, the rush feels intoxicating, a victory over scarcity. Yet within weeks, many of those purchases gather dust in closets, forgotten. The thrill was never in the object itself. It was in the chase. And once caught, the thrill vanishes, leaving the hunger unsatisfied. Or think of the professional who works tirelessly, sacrificing health and relationships to climb the corporate ladder. At each rung, a brief sense of triumph arises, only to fade into anxiety about the next step. Success brings not rest, but restlessness. The hunger remains, disguised as ambition. This is the cycle of desire. Want, grasp, enjoy briefly, grow restless, want again. Round and round it spins, like a wheel that never stops turning. And the more we feed it, the faster it spins. What begins as a gentle craving becomes a roaring fire, consuming peace, consuming presence, consuming the very life we hoped to improve. In Buddhist teaching, this hunger is called tanha thirst. It is more than the desire for physical things. It is the deep, restless craving for life to be different from what it is. It shows up as craving for pleasure, craving for existence, even craving for non-existence, anything but this moment, anything but now. Tanha is like drinking salt water to quench thirst. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. The more we grasp, the emptier we feel. This is why the cycle never ends. Desire promises fulfillment, but delivers only temporary relief, followed by deeper longing. Think of a child chasing bubbles. Each bubble glistens, floating just out of reach. The child runs, laughs, reaches, and the bubble bursts. Another floats by, and the chase begins again. Adults are no different. Our bubbles are simply bigger and more expensive. But here's the hidden cost. While we chase, we miss the present. The meal before us, the friend beside us, the breath within us, all overshadowed by the next thing we think will make us whole. Life becomes a series of pursuits, never a place to arrive. And so the question arises, if the cycle of desire cannot be satisfied, what then? Must we abandon all wanting, retreat from the world, live without joy? No, the Buddha did not condemn pleasure. He only revealed its nature, fleeting, impermanent, incapable of giving lasting peace. His teaching was not to reject desire completely, but to stop mistaking it for the path to happiness. To see clearly that desire will not deliver. What it promises is the first step toward freedom. To recognize tanha in our own lives, not with shame, but with honesty, is the beginning of breaking the cycle. So perhaps the real question is not, how do I get what I want? But what is this wanting teaching me? Desire wears many disguises. Sometimes it is obvious. The craving for a new car, a bigger house, a perfect body. Sometimes it is subtle. The wish for constant approval, the need to be seen as successful, the quiet longing for life to unfold exactly according to plan. Whether loud or hidden, the pattern remains the same: reach, grasp, enjoy briefly, then feel the emptiness return. At first, we believe the problem is external. We tell ourselves, I chose the wrong job, the wrong partner, the wrong purchase. Next time, it will be different. And so we try again, convinced that the right choice will finally silence the hunger. But the wheel keeps turning because the root of the hunger is not outside. It is inside. The Buddha described tanha, the thirst, as the root of suffering. He was not condemning life's pleasures. He was pointing to our relationship with them. It is not the chocolate cake itself that binds us, but the restless demand for more. It is not love itself that hurts, but the insistence that it must never change. It is not success that wounds, but the fear of losing it. In every case, the grasping is the chain. Imagine a hand clutching a rope. The tighter the grip, the deeper the rope burns into the skin. We think holding tighter will give us security, but it only brings pain. In the same way, desire convinces us to grip harder, but peace comes when we release. Modern life magnifies this illusion. Advertising tells us, you will be happy when you buy this. Social media whispers, you will be loved when you look like this. Work culture insists, you will be secure when you achieve this. Each promise pushes us to chase another bubble, another shadow. And each time we catch it, it dissolves. But what happens if we pause? If we stop running for a moment and simply sit with the hunger? At first, it feels uncomfortable, even unbearable. The mind shouts, do something, get something, fix this. Yet if we breathe, if we allow the craving to rise and fall like a wave, we notice something astonishing. The hunger is not permanent. It comes, it peaks, it passes. We do not have to obey it. This is the beginning of freedom. Not the end of desire altogether, but the end of being enslaved by it. When we see craving as just another passing state, like clouds drifting through the sky, it loses its power to control us. The Buddha offered a simple but profound alternative to the cycle: contentment. Not the dull resignation of giving up, but the vibrant joy of appreciating what is here now. Contentment arises when we stop asking life to be different in every moment and start noticing its gifts, the breath in our lungs, the sunlight on our skin, the presence of those we love. Stories across cultures echo this truth. A wealthy man may sit in a mansion, restless and unsatisfied, while a farmer with little feels rich in the laughter of his children. The difference is not in possessions, but in perception. One is trapped in tanha, the other tastes freedom through contentment. This does not mean abandoning ambition or joy. It means holding them lightly. Enjoy the new phone, but know it will age. Celebrate success, but know it will change. Love deeply, but know love too is impermanent. In holding lightly, we savor fully without being consumed. Think of life as music. If we demanded that one beautiful note last forever, the song would die. Its beauty lies in the rise and fall, the beginnings and endings. Desire tries to freeze the note. Wisdom lets it sing, then fade, then make space for the next. So the cycle of desire is not broken by force, but by understanding. When we see clearly that craving cannot deliver what it promises, the grip loosens. When we taste the sweetness of contentment, the wheel slows. And perhaps this is the gift hidden in desire itself. It shows us, again and again, that nothing outside can complete us. It drives us to exhaustion, until finally we ask the deeper question, if not this, then what? The answer, whispered through centuries of Dharma, is simple. Peace is found not in getting more, but in needing less. And so we step forward. Beyond desire, another shadow awaits, the sense that life is unfair, that suffering strikes us without reason. To face it, we must look at the law of cause and effect, the teaching of karma. There are moments in life when the question rises uninvited, almost like a cry from the soul. Why me? Why did I lose my job after years of loyalty? Why did the person I trusted most betray me? Why did illness strike when I was finally beginning to enjoy life? These moments cut deeply, not only because of the pain itself, but because of the feeling that it is undeserved. Picture a man who has worked faithfully at the same company for 20 years. He arrives early, stays late, sacrifices weekends. Then one morning, he is called into an office and told that his position is no longer needed. The company thanks him politely, offers a severance package, and moves on. For him, the ground has vanished. The pain is not just financial, it is the crushing sense of injustice. I gave everything. Why am I the one discarded? Or imagine a woman who pours her heart into a marriage. She supports, sacrifices, forgives. Then, one day, she discovers messages on her partner's phone proof of betrayal. The grief is doubled by disbelief. I loved so faithfully. Why am I the one abandoned? Or think of a child diagnosed with illness, parents staring at test results in shock. They whisper through tears, "Why, our child? What did we do wrong?" In these moments, life feels merciless. The mind spins with stories of unfairness. Some look upward, demanding answers from God. Others turn inward, drowning in guilt or self-blame. Still others grow bitter, convinced that the world is cruel, that nothing has meaning. This is the raw edge of human suffering, the conviction that pain is not only hard, but unjust. The Buddha faced this question too. In his time, people often believed that suffering was punishment from angry gods or the result of random fate. But he pointed to a deeper, more compassionate truth. Karma is often misunderstood. Many think it means punishment, that if something bad happens, it must be because we did something bad. But this is a distortion. Karma is not about blame. It is not about a cosmic judge handing out rewards and penalties. Karma simply means action and the natural results that follow. Just as planting an apple seed grows an apple tree, our actions, physical, verbal, mental, set conditions that shape our experience. Sometimes the seeds are old, planted long ago, and we meet their fruits today. Sometimes the seeds are new, planted in this very moment, soon to ripen. Karma is not personal revenge by the universe. It is the neutral law of cause and effect, as impersonal as gravity. When seen this way, the question shifts. Instead of asking, "Why me?" we begin to ask, "What can this teach me? What seeds am I planting now?" Pain does not always reflect fault, but it always carries an invitation to grow in compassion, to see more clearly, to act with wisdom from this point forward. Consider rain falling on a mountain. Some drops flow into streams, some into rivers, some nourish roots, some erode soil. Each drop follows the path created by conditions. Life is like this. Each action creates ripples, each choice shapes direction. Karma is not about blame for where the drop lands, but about understanding the flow and learning to place new drops with care. When unfairness strikes, it is natural to resist, to rage, to despair, to collapse. But the teaching of karma offers another perspective. Even in the hardest moments, we are not powerless. We cannot always choose what fruits appear today, but we can always choose what seeds to plant for tomorrow. This does not erase the pain of loss, betrayal, or illness, but it shifts the weight. Instead of being crushed under the question, "Why me?" we begin to stand with the question, "What now?" And in that small shift lies the doorway to strength. The first time we hear about karma, it may sound heavy. We imagine a cosmic ledger, recording every mistake, waiting to repay us with suffering. But the Buddha never described it this way. Karma is not chains around our necks. It is the soil beneath our feet. And soil, no matter how barren, can always be renewed by the seeds we plant today. Think of a farmer who discovers that his field has been scorched by fire. At first, he despairs, years of labor gone. But then he realizes something important. The soil is still there. It may be damaged, but it is not gone. He can plant again. He can nourish again. In time, the field will yield once more. Life is like this. Pain may burn, injustice may wound, but the ground of karma remains open to new planting. This means we are never as powerless as we feel. Even in the face of betrayal, loss, or illness, we can choose our response. Will we plant bitterness, anger, despair? Or will we plant patience, courage, compassion? The choice does not erase the storm, but it shapes what grows after. Consider someone who has been betrayed in love. The wound is deep, the trust shattered. At first, bitterness feels natural. But if they stay in bitterness, the seeds will sprout into walls around the heart, cutting them off from future love. If instead, they plant compassion, beginning perhaps with compassion for themselves, they slowly heal. In time, the heart reopens, stronger and wiser. The betrayal was not fair, but through karma, it became soil for growth. Or imagine a man who loses his job unfairly. Rage and despair tempt him. But one evening, instead of drowning in anger, he decides to volunteer at a community center. There, he meets people who remind him of his strengths. New opportunities emerge, not because the world suddenly turned fair, but because he planted seeds of service instead of seeds of rage. Karma reminds us that unfairness is not the final word. Every action, even the smallest, carries potential. A kind word, a patient breath, a single choice to forgive rather than harden, each is a seed. And seeds grow. The Buddha often spoke of this law in simple, everyday images. He compared actions to echoes. Shout into a canyon, and the sound returns. Speak gently, and the echo is gentle. Act with anger, and the echo returns in kind. The world is not punishing us. It is reflecting us. Of course, not all suffering comes from actions in this lifetime. Some conditions are inherited, woven from countless threads of causes beyond our control. A child's illness, a sudden disaster, a tragedy without clear reason. These remind us that karma is vast, stretching beyond what we can see. But even here, the teaching holds. What matters most is not where the storm came from, but how we stand in it now. And here lies a quiet liberation. If life feels unfair, if pain feels random, karma says, you still have power. Not power to erase the past, but power to shape the present. Not control over every outcome, but freedom in every choice. This shift is subtle but profound. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? We begin to ask, how can I use this moment to grow? Instead of being trapped in the role of victim, we step into the role of gardener. Karma, then, is not punishment. It is possibility. It is the reminder that every thought, every word, every act plants a seed. Some seeds bear fruit quickly, others take years, but all grow. And in that truth, we find both responsibility and hope. So when life feels unfair, and it surely will, again and again we can pause and ask, what seeds am I planting now? If we choose wisely, the future, though uncertain, will carry fruits of peace. And perhaps this is the deeper gift of unfairness. It shakes us awake. It strips us of illusions. It calls us to plant consciously, to live deliberately, to discover strength we never knew we had. The journey continues. Beyond unfairness, beyond blame, lies one more transformation. Learning to turn pain itself into growth. To see suffering not as a dead end, but as a teacher. Pain has many faces. It arrives as grief when a loved one dies, as fear when a doctor delivers bad news, as shame when we fail, as emptiness when someone we trusted walks away. No matter who we are, rich or poor, young or old, pain eventually finds us. It is the part of life we most want to avoid, Yet it is also the part we cannot escape. Think of a woman who receives a phone call in the middle of the night. Her brother has been in an accident. Within hours, he is gone. The next morning, the sun still rises. Cars still drive. People still laugh in cafes. But for her, the world has shattered. Or consider a man who spends years building a business, only to watch it collapse in a single economic downturn. He stares at the empty office, haunted by the question, was it all for nothing? In moments like these, pain feels like an intruder, an enemy. The instinct is to resist, to numb it, to deny it, to bury it under distractions. But no matter how fast we run, pain follows. It surfaces in sleepless nights, in sudden tears, in the heaviness that refuses to lift. The Buddha did not deny pain. He named it directly: dukkha, suffering, dissatisfaction, the unavoidable ache of existence. But he also taught that pain, while inevitable, need not destroy us. In fact, it can shape us in ways comfort never could. Consider the story of a tree struck by lightning. At first, the wound seems fatal, but with time, the tree grows around the scar, its roots deepening, its branches stretching wider. The scar does not vanish. It becomes part of the tree's strength. Human beings are like this. Pain carves scars, but within those scars lies the possibility of resilience, compassion, and wisdom. Psychologists today speak of post-traumatic growth, the surprising truth that many people, after great suffering, emerge with deeper gratitude, stronger relationships, and clearer priorities. Survivors of illness often say they appreciate life more. Those who have lost everything sometimes discover a freedom they never imagined. Pain does not guarantee growth, but it carries the potential for it if we are willing to learn. The question, then, is not whether pain will visit us, but how we will meet it. Will we resist, harden, and close? Or will we face it, soften, and grow? The practice of mindfulness offers one path. Instead of drowning in pain or pushing it away, we sit with it. We notice the ache in the chest, the tightness in the throat, the storm of thoughts. We breathe into it gently, patiently. In doing so, we discover something extraordinary. Pain, when faced directly, changes. It is no longer a monster chasing us. It becomes a teacher sitting before us. Imagine someone breathing deeply. Each morning feels unbearable, but they begin a small practice, 10 minutes of mindful breathing. At first, the grief surges even stronger, but slowly they notice space opening around the pain. The grief is still there, but it is not all there is. They can also feel the breath, the ground beneath them, the warmth of the sun. Pain remains, but it no longer consumes the whole sky. Through this practice, we begin to see pain differently. It is not here to crush us, but to awaken us. It shows us what truly matters. It strips away illusions. It humbles the ego. And in that stripping, it prepares the ground for compassion, for ourselves and for others. For who better understands another's suffering than one who has suffered themselves? A person who has walked through grief knows how to sit with someone grieving. A person who has battled illness knows how to comfort another in pain. Our wounds become the bridges that connect us. This is the hidden power of suffering. It can isolate us, yes, but it can also unite us. It can break us, but it can also break us open. So perhaps the real invitation is this. When pain comes, do not ask only, how do I make it stop? Ask also, what is this here to teach me? How can this become the soil for growth? Because while comfort lulls us to sleep, pain shakes us awake. And in that awakening, transformation begins. Pain is a universal language. No matter where we are born, no matter what language we speak, every human heart understands loss, fear, and longing. And because it is universal, Pain has the power to open us not only to our own growth, but to a deeper connection with others. When we suffer, the ego's walls begin to crack. The image we carefully build, the strong professional, the perfect parent, the successful achiever, cannot hold against the raw truth of grief or failure. At first, this collapse feels terrifying, but within it lies freedom. For when the walls fall, the heart remembers what it means to be human. Think of a man who loses his wealth. For years, he defined himself by his bank account, his status, his possessions. When it all disappears, he feels naked, humiliated. But slowly, he begins to notice things he had ignored: the kindness of a neighbor, the loyalty of a friend, the beauty of a morning sky. Stripped of the old identity, he discovers a richer life he never saw before. Pain took away, but it also gave. Or consider a woman who battles cancer. In the hospital, she feels fragile, afraid. Yet as she lies awake at night, she realizes how much she loves simply being alive. The taste of water, the sound of laughter, the touch of a hand, all become miracles. She begins to see life not as a race to achieve, but as a gift to savor. Illness, once her enemy, becomes her teacher. The Buddha described this transformation with clarity. Suffering is not the end, but the beginning of the path. It is the first noble truth, not to discourage us, but to open our eyes. For when we see suffering clearly, we also see the possibility of liberation. But how then do we turn pain into growth? The teachings point to three practices: mindfulness, compassion, and letting go. Mindfulness is the courage to stay present with pain instead of fleeing. When fear arises, we breathe with it. When grief burns, we feel it fully. In that presence, something shifts. Pain is still there, but we no longer drown. We become spacious enough to hold it, like the sky holds a storm. Compassion is the heart's natural response to suffering. When we suffer, we learn to soften toward ourselves, no longer scolding, "I should be stronger," but whispering, "May I be kind to myself in this." From that softness, compassion extends outward. We begin to see the silent struggles in others, and instead of judgment, we offer care. Pain transforms us into healers, not because we escape it, but because we have walked through it. Letting go is the wisdom that frees us. Pain often lingers, not only because of what happened, but because of our clinging to what should have been, clinging to the life we imagined, clinging to the refusal to accept what is. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It does not mean saying the pain was good. It means releasing the grip of resistance. When we stop demanding that reality undo itself, the wound can finally begin to heal. These three: mindfulness, compassion, letting go, are not quick fixes. They are daily practices, like drops of water slowly carving stone. But over time, they turn pain into wisdom, bitterness into empathy, despair into strength. History and literature are full of voices who echo this truth. Survivors of war who dedicate their lives to peace. Parents who lose children and then create foundations to help others. Ordinary people who, after unimaginable loss, say words we least expect. "I would not wish this on anyone, but it has made me who I am." Their words do not glorify suffering. Rather, they honor its power to shape the soul. They show us that pain, though cruel, can forge a deeper humanity. The storm, then, is not only something to endure. It is the classroom where we learn resilience. It is the forge where the heart is tempered. It is the soil where compassion grows. So the next time life brings pain, and it will, we might pause and ask, what if this is not the end of me? What if this is the beginning of something new? Because transformation is never comfortable, but it is always possible. And this is where the journey turns. Beyond stress, beyond control, beyond loneliness, desire, and unfairness, and even beyond pain itself, what remains is hope. Hope that life, in all its storms, is also guiding us toward awakening. The journey we have walked together began in the shadows. We entered through the heavy door of stress, that endless weight pressing on modern life. We faced the illusion of control, the constant struggle against impermanence. We looked directly at loneliness, that silent ache of separation. We examined the cycle of desire, the thirst that never rests. We stood in the fire of unfairness, asking, why me? And finally, we faced pain itself, raw and uninvited. Each chapter has carried us into the heart of human suffering, not as an abstract idea, but as lived reality. You may have recognized yourself in the stories. The restless worker, the betrayed lover, the lonely friend scrolling at night. You may have felt echoes of your own battles. And if so, know this, you are not alone. Every heartbeat on this planet beats with similar questions, similar struggles. The Buddha's gift was not the promise of a life without suffering. He never said we would escape pain, loss, or change. Instead, he offered a way to transform how we meet them. He showed that within stress lies the doorway to presence. Within impermanence lies the secret of freedom. Within loneliness lies the capacity for boundless love. Within desire lies the lesson of contentment. Within unfairness lies the invitation to plant new seeds. Within pain itself lies the forge of wisdom. This is not philosophy for scholars. It is medicine for daily life. Take stress, for example. You do not need to quit your job or move to a mountain cave to find peace. You can begin with a single breath at a red light, noticing the pause instead of fighting it. You can notice your body's signals: tight shoulders, shallow breath, and treat them not as enemies, but as gentle reminders. It is time to soften. With impermanence, you do not need to pretend change is easy. You can begin by noticing small shifts, the changing seasons, the way your own thoughts come and go, the rise and fall of emotions. Each observation teaches the same truth. Everything moves. And in that movement lies both loss and new beginning. With loneliness, you do not need 1,000 friends. You can begin by offering kindness to yourself, whispering, "May I be safe. May I be peaceful." From there, extend it outward, one small act at a time. A smile at a stranger, a listening ear for a friend. Connection grows not from numbers, but from presence. With desire, you do not need to reject joy. You can enjoy what life gives while remembering its fleeting nature. Hold it lightly, like a butterfly resting on your hand. Appreciate its beauty, knowing it will soon fly away. In this lightness, contentment blooms. With unfairness, you do not need to solve the mysteries of karma. You can begin by asking, what seeds am I planting now? Every choice, no matter how small, carries power. Even in the hardest moments, you can plant patience, kindness, or courage. These are the seeds that shape tomorrow. With pain, you do not need to pretend it is sweet. You can allow it to be what it is, raw, heavy, human, and still ask, what can this teach me? In the willingness to face it, you discover resilience. The wound becomes the place where light enters. Step by step, practice by practice, the path becomes clearer. It is not about escaping life, but embracing it fully with all its storms and all its beauty. And so we arrive here at the end of this shared journey. But in truth, it is not an ending at all. It is a turning point. For every listener, every reader, this is where your own path begins. The invitation is simple. Carry one small practice into your life. Just one. Perhaps it is pausing to breathe before answering an email. Perhaps it is whispering a phrase of loving kindness before bed. Perhaps it is noticing the impermanence of a sunset or choosing gratitude at the start of the day. Small seeds, planted consistently, grow into forests. The path of Dharma is not walked in leaps, but in steps. And each step you take reshapes not only your life, but the lives around you. Your calm becomes a refuge for others. Your kindness becomes a light in their darkness. Your resilience becomes their inspiration. In this way, transformation ripples outward. The world will not stop being stressful, unpredictable, or painful. But you will stop being defeated by it. Instead, you will begin to dance with it, sometimes gently, sometimes fiercely, always awake. So as we close, let us remember, suffering is not the enemy. It is the beginning of wisdom. The obstacle is the path. The wound is the doorway. And every moment, even this one, right now, is an opportunity to awaken. May you carry this truth with you. May you meet stress with breath, impermanence with grace, loneliness with love, desire with contentment, unfairness with courage, and pain with compassion. May you walk gently, planting seeds of peace in every step. And may you remember always, you are not alone. We are all in this together, learning, stumbling, growing. And in that shared journey lies the deepest hope of all.